This is part two of the UFO discussion. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about the UFO that was encountered by the U.S. Navy's F-18 pilot. I remember his name was Commander David Fravor. He was interviewed by Joe Rogan. So in my previous video, I talked about my theory on how that UFO spacecraft or alien craft or whatever it is operates. I suspect it's warping space around it. So that craft can travel any direction and then can still rotate inside the space bubble. So to uh, further explain my theory on that is that if the spacecraft is operating in Earth atmosphere, it's within the Earth gravitational well, you'll be affected by Earth gravity. So in order for that craft to fly in space, it got to be able to counter the Earth gravity first. So I suspect that craft had multiple engines inside, and it's creating warp bubbles in several lobes. Imagine there are several lobes of space bubble around it. The primary lobe obviously is to determine which direction of the craft is moving, but the other function is to lift the craft. So one of the engine is going to have to create a warp bubble, a space bubble that lift the craft in the middle of the atmosphere to keep it from falling toward Earth's surface. So it's lifting it. Once you lift it, you got to decide which direction you want to move. So use the other engine to decide which direction you want to fly to. So let's say I want to move to the right. I will have the engine warp the space in a way, stretch the space in a way that I'm moving to the right. While at the same time that the other engine, the hover engine, is lifting the space, lifting the spacecraft so it doesn't fall. Now, if you want to travel upward, obviously you just reduce the vector of that engine's lifting force to almost zero, and have the directional engine to is going to fly up like this, or vice versa. It doesn't matter how you manipulate it. Eventually, what you need to do is just that you have to create the space bubble around it in a way that you constantly manage the bubble or the vector or magnitude and the direction of the bubble in multiple directions, in multiple lobes, to determine whether you should fly up, go down, move to the right, move to the left. So if you want to go down, you can essentially just shut down all the engines. You shut down all the engines, and then the spacecraft will fall toward Earth at 9.8 meters per second per second. And if you want to travel faster, you just turn on the lifting and the hover engine with a negative vector. Assuming this direction is positive, then this is negative. You just pull it down. You want to travel faster than 9.8 meters per second per second. So I believe that craft had multiple engines inside, and it's manipulating multiple lobes of space bubble around it. That's why, and you gotta be able to manipulate those space bubble in extremely precise timing, because you want to accelerate any given direction instantaneously. So I suspect that craft must have extremely sophisticated computer inside, or some sort of computing device that can allow the pilot, assuming that that craft is a physical object and it's created by a being, a life form. I'm assuming that that ball itself is not a life form, but that craft is a piece of engineering device created by the life form. So you gotta have sophisticated computer inside that calculate how much vector and how great the magnitude is of what the direction of vector of the space lobe is, and there must be multiple space lobes around the craft. You constantly manipulate around so this craft can do dances like that in the middle of the air, and then of course, like I said before in the first video, at any given direction, this spacecraft is the spacecraft can rotate inside because the space bubble is transparent. You can't see the space bubble. Now, I want to bring up a second discussion. Is that when Commander Fravor and his co-pilots saw the spacecraft or this UFO, it was traveling in that direction, and then they don't see any visible plume. That means it's not using any jet engines or any propellers, like we human normally do, thinking about how to travel in atmospheric conditions. We suck in air, burn fuel, add some energy to it, spit out the other direction, and then you travel that direction. It's not doing that. My theory that it's using the warping the space. So one way to test it is that if we have equipped the F-18 Super Hornet with a laser, a low power laser. I'm not talking about attacking the spacecraft. If we shine a laser at that UFO, can we see the laser will bend around the craft? If it's bending, then my theory is correct. That it's warping space to travel, to hover. So the challenge is you gotta have the other guy, you gotta have another space aircraft on the other side to be able to tell that if the laser is bent, has been warped or bent in one direction or the other. Now I'm assuming this UFO will not be able to interpret the laser as a weapon. I merely want to know if it's using the space bubble to travel. So one way, yeah. And the other thing is, I'm assuming the UFO itself will not absorb the laser. If it absorbs it, then I have no idea if it's bending it or not. Anyway, that's just a couple more theories I want to come up. I've been thinking about it ever since I made that first video. It's very amazing that every time I think about that UFO, that Commander Fravor encounter, this is back in 2014 or 2004, I forgot. But it's been that long, and then it's somebody out there is proving to us that there is a new way of flying aircraft in the Earth atmosphere, or even travel through outer space, or even underwater. You don't need reactionary engines, and it's mind-boggling that somebody out there is doing it. And I'm dying to find out how these guys built that engine and what kind of fuel they use. It's amazing. I find it absolutely amazing. Something out there is doing this. It's just, it's mind-boggling. Try to imagine this. If you're a human living back in the Middle Ages, let's say Charlemagne era, and then somebody drive a Tesla down the road in the middle of Germany and run past this group of farmers during the Charlemagne era. And then these group of farmers just like scratching their head. What is that thing? That's what I feel like right now. So anyway, I hope I can make more video like this. I hope we'll continue to encounter these UFOs, and I hope that one day we'll be able to find out exactly how they fly through outer space and fly through the atmosphere of Earth, and we'll be able to learn from them how to build those engines and how to manage it and what kind of fuel do they use. So that's it. Thank you.